Hello, online 1301 students. This is your instructor, Miss Moore, here for another week of notes. These notes are going to be pretty extensive, so I may actually record 2 videos if I don't get finished within my 15-minute limit, but I'll try and keep it as short as possible. So first up on your note page for this week, I just have some announcements and assignments that are coming up. You should have turned in your thesis statement and outline on Blackboard, in MindTap last night through an assignment on MindTap. So I will be looking at those as soon as I can. I may neglect other grading to get to those first so that I can get you some comments back. To access my comments, you'll go back to the area where you turned it in, and when you click back on the assignment after I've graded it, it should give you comments. So what I would suggest doing is just waiting. I'll probably even send you an email when I'm finished grading them. Once you see on Blackboard that that assignment has been graded, that's when I would go back and see if you can see my comments. I'll just try and make some general comments to just reassure you that you're in the right direction, or let you know if I see a problem with your upcoming essay. On that note, this week you have some assignments due a little earlier, or I guess just one assignment due a little bit earlier. So this Thursday by 11, you have to turn in a rough draft of your essay number 1. So this is in MindTap under Chapter 8. These will always be under the last chapter of the week's reading. You will not receive feedback from me on this. This is just me checking you to make sure that you're going through the process. So I want to see that first draft. I want to see that you wrote out your thoughts and then you revise them from there. So mostly I'll be checking to make sure that this is a different version than the one you turn in as your final copy, and I'll be interested to see what changes from your rough draft to your final copy. On that note, you do have the final copy of your first essay due by Sunday at 11 p.m. This assignment is also under Chapter 8 in MindTap. And this will be how you'll turn in all your assignments from now on, and we'll get used to how that works, and I will give you comments on those electronic copies. And then of course, if you have questions, we can set up times to meet or email together and figure those out. I'm really excited to read your thoughts on the writing process. And this process really should be what you use throughout the rest of the class to complete every paper. So I expect that you're going to be coming back to these chapters throughout the class as you write each paper for this class. So it really is a foundational part. So I'm glad you're writing a paper about the writing process, because I think it'll help you learn it better and hopefully use it throughout this class and then also throughout college. So those are my announcements and assignments. I know that many of you are still struggling with MindTap. Just trust me that we will get everything worked out. New technology always has its problems, and so just email with me and let me know when you have problems. Be sure and talk to Cengage support if you're having problems on their website on MindTap, and just know that I'm aware of that. I know technical difficulties happen, and I want to remind you that that means you should be trying to get your assignments finished as early as possible so that you can avoid those technical difficulties. Okay, so let's finally jump right in here and talk about the chapters that you're reading this week. The first chapter that you're reading is Chapter 5 on revision. Revision is one of my favorite parts of the writing process. I feel like I change my writing so much from the first time I write it down to the final copy. And revision is what we call a big picture. I'm kind of jumping ahead here. Consider the big picture, whole paper issues. So revision is working with just your ideas, the clarity of your paper, making sure that your paper is doing what it's supposed to be doing. And so this is the big picture revision. Your book says to recharge, and I like to say, remember to let the draft cook. Take a break. Don't jump right into revision. Give yourself time after you've written your first draft to go away. Give yourself a reward. Maybe go out and get some ice cream or watch a movie. Give your brain a break. And then when you come back to revision, you're ready to see it with a fresh eye and perhaps see some of the problems with your essay. So of course, as we've heard in each stage of the writing process, you want to revisit the rhetorical situation once again. On page 70, if you have your book and you want to follow along, so page 70 gives you all of the things you should think about now that go with the rhetorical situation. So read over those to consider your role, think about your subject, remember your purpose, and check those against the rough draft of your paper. Consider your overall approach is also on page 71, a great way. This is a great way just to make your writing better and not just settle again for that first idea that you had, and to really push your ideas to be better and more exciting and interesting. Now, once we get to revising for ideas, for ideas and organization, I'm going to skip over revising your first draft, but I think that's really important. I think you need to think about ideas, organization, and voice. And so that's kind of where this goes, this part of the outline. And I've numbered these 4 ideas because if you get anything out of this lecture, I want you to really focus on these 4 ideas because I think they're the parts of revision that are going to help your paper the most. So the first one is examining your ideas. This is on page 73 of your book. And what examining your ideas is going to do is you're trying to look at your paper from your reader's point of view now, because it's really easy for us to know what we're talking about, but sometimes our thinking isn't complete and isn't clear when someone else reads it. And so you really want to examine your ideas and ask yourself, if someone else reads this, do they know what I'm trying to say? Are my thoughts complete, and do I have a clear thesis? This is going to be key for college writing, is being sure that your audience knows what your thesis is. What's the point of this paper? Why are you writing it? What are you going to tell me? Now, I know for our first essay, your thesis may be a little tricky, but basically it's just going to be something about the writing process. So you're going to tell me in your thesis statement what you're going to tell me about the writing process. Are you going to tell me that it's helpful? Are you going to tell me the steps? So an example of a thesis statement for this upcoming essay might just be something like, the writing process is an essential part of every writer's goal to create a good paper. Okay, sorry, I just made that up. But do you get my point? So maybe your thesis statement might say something like, the writing process has several steps that helps a writer achieve a better paper than one who does not follow such a process. Or maybe the writing process is like an experiment because. Kind of give you some ideas. I know I'm not very good at thinking of them off the top of my head, but hopefully that gives you some ideas of what your thesis statement should say. The second most important point, besides looking at your ideas, is looking at your organization here at number 2. This is going to be key as well, because when you begin writing about complicated ideas, you really have to make sure that your reader can follow you and that your organization is clear. So take a look at page 74 and following to get those ideas down, and really think about revising the overall plan of your essay. You might need to move main points around. You may need to change your transitions so that they move more adequately from point to point. So this page 74, 75 goes over how to examine your organization while you're revising. Finally, or not finally, but next, number 3, revising for voice and style. So we're kind of going from the most important ideas down to the most specific ideas. So when we talk about up here ideas, that's the big picture, right? Organization, excuse me, that's getting a little bit more specific, but it's still very big. Now if we get down to voice and style, we're getting down to a little bit more specific parts of your paper. And I think that this is an area that a lot of students struggle with, and one reason I really like your book is that it gives you some great examples and ways to revise voice and style. So if you look at page 76, that is where this section starts. I want to point out some of the problem areas that I see in a lot of my students' writing, and just kind of explain those a little bit more. So the first one is personal pronouns. You can find this on page 77. If you noticed on my assignment sheet, I tried to make it very clear that I do not want you to use personal pronouns. That's using I, you, we. You want to stay very academic, and typically academic style means not using those personal pronouns. And so we're going to practice that throughout the whole class, because I really want you to start working on that academic tone. And you know, it's really easy if you find yourself writing in that personal style. It's really easy to revise. Don't worry about it while you're making your rough draft. But as you revise your paper, you can take those out. For example, look at that yellow box in the middle of page 77. The example says, I really think that the problem of homelessness in Chicago is serious. All you have to do to revise that is just take out the I and just say, homelessness in Chicago is serious. All you're doing is taking out that personality from it and making it a very bold statement and making it a very unique and, what's the word I'm looking for, a really adamant statement, instead of qualifying it with I think, I believe. So we want to work on personal pronouns, technical terms, and levels of formality. The other point I wanted to make right here is unnecessary qualifiers. I'm running out of time on this video, as I thought I might. So I'm going to close this video, and I will start back up the lecture at unnecessary qualifiers in the next video. So hop on over there and I will continue. Thanks.